Hello, welcome to another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne Highlander, National Sales Manager for Bona Adhesives.
I'm Rob Johnson from Bona Training.
How we doing, Rob?
Pretty good. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.
Yep. I don't know when this is going to air, but this is our last show before Thanksgiving. So
Yep.
for the listeners, happy belated Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Any special plans?
Well, first of all, this episode is going to be on oiled floors, so we'll circle back to that. My wife is going to make me a pumpkin pie, and that's all I care about. I always say Judy's a great cook, and she is a great cook. But last Thanksgiving, man, I said all I want is a pumpkin pie, and she made a pumpkin pie with store-bought crust, and that's not like her at all, man. And I always tell her everything is great, and it is great. She always is a great cook. But she goes, did you like the pie? I go, yeah. I said, but you didn't make real crust. I mean, that's not like you. She goes, oh, man, you noticed that? I go, yeah, and of course I noticed that. She goes, I'm sorry. I said, well, you don't have to apologize, whatever. But anyhow, so this year she's going to make me not a pecan pie. God, I love pecan pie. Do I love pecan pie? Holy smokes. But she's going to make me a pumpkin pie, which is probably my second favorite pie.
I didn't know you were a pecan pie guy.
Oh, do I love pecan pie?
All right, I'm going to have Pauline make and I'll send you one.
Are you kidding me?
Swear to God.
Oh, man.
Swear to God. Going to do it.
She makes a good one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of pecan pie.
Oh, man, I love it.
Okay. It's okay, but some people in my family are big fans of it, and they lose it over Pauline's.
What's your
tell Judy it's not a competition. It's just Pauline found a decent recipe and she does a real good one.
What's your favorite pie?
Banana cream.
That's not a real pie.
That is a real pie. Absolutely. And every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I make banana cream pie for the family. Everybody,
look,
showstopper.
I'm going to shut up then, because your spaghetti was off the charts. So if you say you make a good pie, I'm not going to doubt you. Your spaghetti was incredible. All right. Judy's got to make you. Judy makes an incredible pie. Her cheesecake. I don't even like cheesecake. Her cheesecake is absolutely incredible, as is her cherry pies. So anyhow, that's it.
Did she make you a whole turkey and all that stuff, or is just pumpkin pie? When you said I just want pumpkin pie.
No, that's all I'm getting. I should have been more specific, huh? No, we're going over.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We're going over a friend's house this year for Thanksgiving. So, and there's just the two of us. So no point in making if we're going to do that, making a turkey that'll hang around for a long time.
So what are you going to bring?
Mashed potatoes.
Okay. They gave you something to do?
Well, Judy's making mashed potatoes. I told her I was going to help. There's like 20 people going to be there. So it's a lot of mashed potatoes. But so there you go.
There's it. Perfect.
Good Irish butter in them is the key.
20 people. It's
a lot.
That's a big Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I got a lot of information in my head, and I didn't want to waste it.
Oh, we know that.
I had to do a presentation on UV cured oiled floors and how to maintain them and stuff like that. So I broadened it's a kind of a narrow lane to put someone like me in. I got a lot of information.
Somebody like you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I opened it up to a little bit different. So I'll just kind of go with that. And I'm just gonna throw out everything I know about these floors. I'm gonna give a shout out to Carl Mattingly, who's an inspector in California. I asked him a question. He responded. And I'll share that information with you as well. Okay. So oiled floors. It's interesting because oiled floors, the technology really dates back to the 1800s. I told you in the last episode, my wife and I we had lunch in a hotel. It's 190-year-old, the original floors. And I'm sure that those floors back in those days were probably a linseed oil. Linseed oil would get, it's a really thin product. We get right down the natural product. We get right down into all the pores of the wood, fill the pores of the wood, and then likely they would have hand waxed the floors with beeswax on top of them. And that was technology, and they did a fantastic job. It was a lot of upkeep. But where I came to know oil floors was like in the 1990s. And I remember the first generation that came over was like a single component, your hard oil wax floors. And they dried by oxygen. That's how they dried. So they took a long time to dry. And they didn't really hold up to chemical spills and water very well. And I'm an early adopter. I jumped on this pretty quick because I like the idea. One of the benefits of these floors is there's not a surface film on top of it. Like if you take like a polyurethane floor, there's like an umbrella on top of the floor, like a surface on top of the floor. Whereas these floors, the oil is just it goes into all the pores of the wood, and and it fills the pores, and you're just walking on that natural product. Very low sheen, very sexy look, right? We kind of got away from it after a short amount of time back then because of the issues that I talked about. I feel like I was educating the whole world on how to now walk on your hardwood floors because that's the way they did it in Europe. And because they took a long time to dry and cure and all these other things.
So wait a minute. You were educating your customers back in California that you were doing these floors for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you have to. I mean, I'll get into that later, but these floors require some education up front. So, shortly thereafter, the reason why hard oil wax came about, to my knowledge anyhow, is somebody figured out how to take the wax and the oil and mix them together in one go instead of, using the oil then putting the wax behind it. Okay. But then they came out with the two components. Now, the two components were interesting to me because they dried by two different ways. They dried by oxygen, like the single components, but they also dried by a chemical reaction, usually an isocyanate. I hear you breathing. Are you breathing?
No. Okay. I'm
Okay.
actually holding my breath.
Okay, because I can hear you breathing. It's weird. It's bugging me.
Breathing bugs me. Rob, your breathing, sustaining life, is annoying me.
One time when I was about 13 years old, my brother and I we lived in a small town in Kentucky. We were going to go downtown, which is not much of a down.
Keep going.
One time we were kids living in Kentucky. I was 13 years old. We put my brother at about 15 or 16. We were walking downtown, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Walk on the other side of the sidewalk." I go, "What?" He goes, "You heard me. Walk on the other side of the sidewalk. We're going together downtown, the same place." I go, "Why?" He said, "Because you're too fat."
Just some brotherly love there.
Absolutely.
You gotta love that.
Mm-hmm. So, Mom said I was husky. So, anyhow. Then
did you have to shop in the husky section?
I did. Yeah.
That's where you and I probably met.
Yeah. As soon as my mom said, "Wayne, these will fit you. They're size husky." That was it for my brothers.
Husky.
My brothers would never let that go.
Oh,
where's Husky at? Where's Husky? Hey, Husky.
You see, they don't do that to kids anymore.
No.
There is no husky section.
No, isn't there?
No, I've been to clothing stores now. There's no husky. Well, there is for the big guys, big men,
and tall. Yeah.
Big and tall, or, big section. But I think they've even taken those signs down. You got to kind of look for that stuff.
Okay.
But those signs were up when we were kids. Husky section.
Oh, absolutely they were.
Over here, Chunky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Step right up.
Yeah.
Not only are you going to shop here, but we're going to put a big sign up to say you're very large and you can't shop with the normal kids.
We'll traumatize you right off the bat.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a scale. All right. So then they came out with the 2 components, and the 2 components were interesting because they dried in 2 different ways. They dried by oxygen, but they also dried by the chemical reaction, was usually an isocyanate. But they held up the chemicals much better. They hold up the spills much better. And then I was in. All right. That was a cool look. I liked everything about that and whatever. But then
wait, before you get cranking here.
Okay.
So when you first did oil floors, what was that, like 90s?
It was in the 90s. Yeah, early 90s.
So in the 90s, you had to put the oil down and then put a coat of wax on top?
No, because when they came over here, someone had figured out how to put the oil and the wax together to come out with this product. So you no longer had to put the linseed oil down first and then come up behind it with wax. So after they come out with the 2 components, they came out with the UV cured oil floors. Now, be aware that when they introduced that process, they introduced acrylic into the mix. Now, acrylic is one of the major components that's added to like a urethane finish. So sometimes they can have more of a surface film look to them. You know what I mean? Almost like a polyurethane look, depending on how much acrylic they put in the floor. And the UV cured them, which is nice because you're not introducing that. They're cured right away when you install them. And sometimes a little tougher to touch up. And so that was my introduction to these type of floors. Now, I'm going to go over everything that can go wrong with one of these floors. Okay. And it's not to say there's anything bad about them, but I like I said, I talked to an inspector about this. I said here, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. He gave me his 2 cents, and this is my list of what can go wrong with these type of floors. And I do this to keep you out of trouble. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said you were in a very narrow lane here.
Yes.
Right? And you're talking about UV cured oil floors, or
correct.
Natural oil UV cured, not like craft oil 2K.
No.
You're not talking those products.
I'm going to talk. Okay. I'm glad you said that, because now I'm going to go back into oil floors in general. Okay. What can go wrong with oil floors in general? Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of like a traffic cop with you.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta. Yeah.
You're almost like a collie dog, a border
like a
collie.
sheep herder. Yeah. Exactly. Like Joseph. Yeah.
Put me back in my lane.
Exactly.
There you go.
Because I thought you were just, and I was thinking to myself, why are we picking such a narrow subject here of UV cured oil floors? I didn't even know there was UV cured oil floors.
Well, and I think maybe it's confusing because that's what I was asked to speak about. Okay. And so now I opened it up to
out of everything that you could have talked about in the wood floor industry, the Wayne Highlander. The Wayne Highlander. Yeah. That's what they wanted you to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Very random.
Did you say anything like?
Well, I wanted to say, how about if I just talk about satin finish? Applying satin finish. But I rolled with it. So, okay, this is what can go wrong. Okay?
Let's hear it.
This is over like 20 years of research for the inspector, and here's the bottom line. It almost always comes down to maintenance. Okay? But I'm going to give you number one. And number one is at the point of sale. Okay? Where you have the homeowner in front of you, and you don't explain that these are not no maintenance floors. but they're some maintenance floors is involved with these products. Okay, you really need I think you need to have that conversation. Okay, now because the look, let's say, and I think here's what could happen. Let's say you're at a retail store, homeowner comes in, she sees that stain sample, she goes, "Oh my gosh, the 3x3 looks beautiful. Can I take it home and put it next to my cabinets?" You sure can. Comes back, "Yes, this is beautiful. This is what we want." Why would a sales rep say then, "No, let me talk you out of that"? You know what I mean? If someone is giddy over a product, I mean, why do you want to get in the way of that? But I think that's a time you really do need to have that conversation. Look, beautiful floor. I want to just educate you, as I would with any of our products, on these type of floors. Okay. All right. Now, number 2.
Wait.
Yes, sir.
Before you get into number 2, I'm going to take you a step further because it's definitely something that I talk about in training. We got our Bona Craft oil, awesome product. Everybody loves it, easy to work with, all that good stuff. But I do tell people at our trainings, listen, part of the sale that goes with this, whether you're selling it or they're asking for it, is to talk about the maintenance program and what is going to be required. And I said, and on top of that, you got to have a number in your head. So when the homeowner says, "Oh, what's that going to cost me?" You got to have that right then and there. You can't be like, "Oh, well, wait a minute, let me do some." So I think you got to have that number, whether it's a square foot or by the room or whatever. You got to have that maintenance cost in your head. You got to know what those maintenance products are going to cost you, how much, what's the labor and all that, and have a good solid number so there's no fooling around. Where if you said to somebody, "Hey, it might require maintenance," to some people that would be like, "Oh, you're going to come in, rub something on the floor and walk out."
Yeah. Good point.
That's the second one today, folks.
Yeah, you're gonna roll 3 and you get the prize. So
3 and I get to leave.
Stay tuned. All right. Number 2, I'm going to say is amnesia. Is that you absolutely had that discussion with the homeowner and it went out the window. So I think, therefore, it's a good idea, and maybe even after the install, "Hey, here's your floors. We're installed. We're done. Now, let me walk you through the maintenance program." We always have everybody sign off on it. It makes you understand. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask, whatever. But get a signature on it. Wow. So they don't come back with it. Because I think there are, with this type of product, I think sometimes there is buyer's remorse, where they will say, "You know what," and I'll get into this later, but you know what used to be a very low sheen, a beautiful low sheen, can turn into lifeless and dull down the road. You know what I mean? So just be aware, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay.
Lifeless and Dull. That's the name of my autobiography. We just came up with a great name for my autobiography when I finally get around to writing it.
Yes, Rob Johnson, my life.
Lifeless and dull.
Anything but, Rob. Number 3 is at the time of installation, using blue tape. When you pull the blue tape off, these floors have oil in them, obviously, and sometimes it pulls the oil off as well, and it can leave tape lines on the floor. So you definitely want to be using straps when you're doing these floors. And a lot of times adhesives have what we call memory. So if you put the plank in the adhesive, then you slide it into place, it keeps wanting to slide back to where you first put the adhesive in. Now, as a side note, Bona adhesive has no memory.
Ooh.
Right? All right, you see, I was able to work. This is the only time I'll be able to work in adhesive.
I was just about to jump on that.
This whole presentation. All right. All right. Number 4, and this is interesting to me. And this is very common occurrence, where sometimes you'll install the floor, the builder rolls out ram board on the floor to protect it, right? And they'll say ram board's breathable or whatever. And after a month and a half or 2 months of the ram board being down, the ram board's pulled off, and a lot of times that ram board dries out the oil in the floor, and can give it can kind of be like a dry look to it. Okay, so that's a bad way to start off on the floor of your brand new floor.
Does the oil attach itself to the ram board?
No, I think
like a wick.
No, I think that, and sometimes like there's heating vents that get under there or whatever, and it doesn't allow the floor to breathe so much, and it just can rob kind of rob the floor of its oils. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how is this for a conversation? Okay, your floor is done. Pull the ram board up. I'm going to need another $8,000 to apply another coat of oil to your floor. Okay, so when we talk
that
about
sounds like a
expectations,
great conversation. Yeah, let's get into that one.
So, but let's say it's a white floor or a gray floor, and that happens. You're starting out with a lot of not enough oil on the floor. It would be a quick one coat process to put it on there, but I hate when that's like someone saying you just do a light sanding. You know what I mean? There's no such thing. It's it's still time and energy and money and cost. So, so there's that on the installation.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to tell the builder, listen, you might have worked with wood floors before, like wood floor contractors and everything, but now we definitely have to be the last person to get away from that ram board and covering those floors up.
I think it's a good conversation to have, and I think I'd certainly want to put somebody on notice. Say, look, I'm just going to shoot you straight here. It's a very common practice for people to put ram board down, but when you go with this type of floor, it's a possibility. Doesn't happen all the times that this may occur. Okay, just to put them on notice that you don't want to. Nobody wants to go back up to somebody to ask for more money and what have you, even though you're looking out after the homeowner. I think one thing down the road in the life of a floor, usually if it's been down for a while, if you want to know if you have enough oil on it, you can drop a little water on the floor and see if it repels away. There's like some protection on the floor if it doesn't. But the next one is following the manufacturer guidelines, and the challenge is sometimes that you don't know what's on the floor. That some of these floors, and even the reps don't know what's on the floor, or it may have changed over the years. So there's the universal cleaners you can use. We make one. We have competitors, obviously, that make one. So there you go for that. The next one is plastic or rubber backing on the rugs that can turn the floor black. And in all fairness, this could happen to a urethane floor, a pre-finished floor, a site finished floor as well. But you definitely want to be careful of the air. What's that website, Rob?
You mean the one that once a month I get a call from Wayne. Hey, what's the carpet backing that we recommend? And I mean, you've been asking me this for years.
Literally once a month, I probably call and ask you this.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I think you're putting me on.
No, it's really that bad.
And you really still don't know it.
Is it rugs something?
No. This is like 2 weeks ago. I can look at my text.
I know.
2 weeks ago, you asked me this.
I always think it's going to be the last time I ever ask you.
NoMove.com.
Spell it.
NO-MUV. So it looks like MUV, but they pronounce it NoMove.com.
Okay.
And it's the carpet backing that we recommend that won't harm finishes. Our finishes. Okay? But
okay.
I don't know about the oil.
Okay. Well,
you know what I mean? Would that be...
Don't use plastic or rubber backing. So there you go. All right. Don't overuse
NoMove.com. They should send me a t-shirt or something.
They should, yeah.
A big one.
And then you should split it with me because of all the times I bring it up.
Yeah, actually, are you working for them now? Because you do ask a lot. You've sold a lot of that. No,
it's embarrassing how many times I've asked you that.
It is crazy. So when Kyle and Rebecca, my daughter and son-in-law, when they bought their house, I got to do the floors. They were in pretty good shape, so I went in and just gave them a real good screening coat, couple of coats of traffic, and the floors look. Actually, I use Natural, so the floors look great, And she says to me, we're going to do some, a couple of area rugs. What should I? And I go, oh, call Wayne. He'll tell you, nomove.com.
Yeah.
So I tell her, here you go, nomove.com. She calls me back the next day. She goes, is there anything else? Those no move mats, they're kind of expensive. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? You got the floors
for free?
Free.
Yeah.
The floors didn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
Your brother and I were there for 2 days. You paid nothing for the floors.
Yeah.
0. And you can't meet me halfway?
Mm-hmm. That's funny, man.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was like, well, I guess you put it that way. I was like, yeah. Please. So I know. So for the listeners, yes, I guess they're expensive, but there's a reason that's the one that we recommend, because we know it's not going to harm the finish.
There you go. All right. Next one is, and this is very common, is overusing the cleaner. Now, picture it like hand lotion. Okay. If you were to take hand lotion, put it on your hands and not work it into your hands and not, work it into your hands and whatever, just leave it on your hands. That's what you'll be doing if you use too much oil on a floor. So make sure you really saturate the wood, get the wood nice, drive the oils into the wood, but it should be like almost like putting hand lotion on your hands. The oil, the floors need that oil. Okay, that's how that's when they're healthy. But you don't want to saturate them. Usually an indication that you have too much oil on the floor is it can have like a hazy appearance to it, or you're leaving footprints. Okay. In which case I would get out a buffer, probably a low speed buffer with a white pad, 3M white pad, thick white pad, and just start buffing that again and flipping the pad over and getting some of that oil off and driving the oil into the floor. Okay.
Now that's for the UV stuff, right?
Yes.
Would our products work on that?
We have cleaners for like a universal cleaner that we have for oil floors. Yes.
But not the craft oil soap and craft oil care?
Yeah, that's our cleaners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you a little tutorial on those 2 cleaners. Okay.
Please do.
I'm going to make it simple so you can understand exactly what they do.
Okay.
Okay. We have 2. We have craft oil soap and we have craft oil care. You understand? You with me so far?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Well, of course I'm with you.
Because it looks like you're looking around. You're not paying attention. You're looking for pumpkin pie. That's a couple days away.
Yeah, but you're explaining.
Here's what you're going to do. Okay? I want you to picture me in the shower. Yeah. So picture me in the shower.
Yeah.
And when I'm washing my hair, I'm using what? I'm using shampoo.
Yeah.
Right? The shampoo, that's the craft oil soap. Soap is shampoo.
Right.
Then you rinse all that out. And what's the next thing I'm going to do from my hair? Conditioner. That's the care. The care is the nourisher, the conditioner. Just like you're nourishing your hair, conditioning your hair. That's what craft oil soap and craft oil care does. Now, everybody listening knows
the difference.
Think of me in the shower, and that's what the soap does, and that's what the care does.
So I love that analogy, but
yeah,
could you not have used somebody else?
No, I wanted it to be me. That way it's burned.
In your head.
It's burned in their head.
That certainly is mine.
Yeah.
Okay. That was weird.
At a sales meeting, Nick Larson asked me to describe that, and Shearston was there, and I did it. I said the whole thing, the whole shower scene.
Oh, nice. Shower scene.
And yeah, the shower scene. And I'm still here. Maybe Beautiful. She was she might have been on a call or something, but
yeah.
Or maybe it was different, breaking it down into Swedish or English or something, but maybe it meant something different. But
what's the Swedish word for creep? Because I may have I think I heard like creepo or something. I don't know.
Creepy.
All right. Yeah. Not enough oil. Okay, a close second to too much oil. As I said, these floors need the oil. That's what. And I'm gonna give you an example. I went out to I was working for a manufacturer at the time, and this homeowner complained about her oil. You still breathing?
Yeah.
Okay. I went out to a floor. The homeowner was complaining that she bought this floor. She purchased this floor just 9 months, 10 months ago, whatever, and it looked absolutely horrible. And really thought, man, I spent a lot of money on this floor. It looks awful. It's a hard oil wax floor, and I'm just not happy at all. So, manufacturer rep went out. I went with them, and went out there and we re-oiled that floor. And when we opened the door and walked in there, I thought, holy smokes, these floors look hammered. I mean, they absolutely look terrible. And it was a kitchen, but it was a dining room off the kitchen as well, and another couple hallways. And we re-oiled that floor, and when we left, it looked absolutely stunning. Stunning when we left. It just tells you what proper maintenance will do. And then here's the nice thing about these things that I'm talking about, what could go wrong. Usually when you educate the homeowner, get them on the right track, you never hear the problems. You never hear the problems again from them once they understand it. So look, it's kind of ironic to me because the last floor I ever did in my life, I could have put any fitting, I could have put traffic or whatever I wanted on that floor, and I chose to go with 2 coats of our craft oil. And it's interesting because back in the 90s, after the single components came out, I told myself, nope, I'm done. I'll never use these floors again. And yet the last floor I ever did, which by the way, floor of the year.
Cue the music, people. That's what he put on floor of the year. I can hear it. Can you hear it?
Yeah. It's getting loud.
Oh, yeah. I hear it now.
I'm afraid it's going to go away sometime, but it hasn't yet. Okay.
There are some people that say when you oil these floors and have an oil floor, that the floor you have to treat it like it's still living. Nourishing it, cleaning it, nourishing it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love the natural look, right? I mean, I do think these floors down the road get so much better looking. The patina is beautiful. I mean, some of the advantages. I mean, if you get a small scuff or scratch, you don't notice them as much. You can easily repair areas with one exception I'll get to later, without having to sand and finish the whole floors. By the way, when I talked about the pre-finished hard oil wax floors and putting acrylic in them, sometimes when you scratch those, they can get a white scratch in them, just like a urethane floor. So I make a pretty good argument for going with a site finish 2-component product. All right, so where am I at here? Urethane versus oil. The homeowners walked on urethane their whole life, and you hear this a lot. Well, my other floors didn't do this. Don't you hate that? That's one of the worst things you could hear from a homeowner. My other floor, blah blah blah, or when we had our other floors, especially if you sanded the floors.
In my other house, yeah.
Yeah, my other house they didn't do this, or if you sanded the floors, and she goes, my other floors didn't have that. You're the guy that sanded it. You know their other floors were hammered. You know the other floors look terrible. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? I remember real quick.
You were living with urine before I got here.
Yeah.
And now you're complaining about a squeak?
We had a floor that was pretty close to natural finish, and then we went with a darker, like more of an antique color to it. And when we got done, it was a sand and finish, mind you. We had installed no floors. There was one courtesan board in the middle of the floor that she goes, what happened to this board? I go, I mean, it's just a grain. She goes, no, it wasn't like that. And she's like, got her finger up. It wasn't like that before. I said, ma'am, I mean, what could we have done to it? We didn't replace any boards. You notice the grain takes each board individually. That's the beauty of hardwood floors. It's, I mean, and that's why you buy hardwood floors. But she was convinced that we did something to that particular board. So she may have been walked on urethane floors her whole life, and just, the expectations, again, I'll go back to point of sale. where that conversation maybe didn't happen, or it happened to where the degree of where it needed to be. Another one is common is we use all the recommended products. I mean, we know what we're supposed to use. We've been using what we're supposed to use, but over the course of time, the floors have gotten dirty, and sometimes the soil in the floor that's been kind of grinded into the floor, walked into the floor. When they clean the floor, they didn't do a good enough job. Sometimes you got to get on your hands and knees and really, really wipe that floor, almost like you're wiping off a stain. And do especially when it comes to these textured floors, wire brush floors, maybe hand scrape floors, that they're not cleaning them good enough at first. Okay. Now let's get to ceruse floors, the two-tone floors. You have a dark background and you have a frost on top of that, which is a very popular look. Maybe you have a gray background and a white on top of that, which I love those looks, but they are more difficult to do repairs on. Okay. So it's not a bad idea, if you know you have a high traffic area, say a kitchen, for instance, that they like that look, but knowing the maintenance involved, and if you have to do a repair, they may not live up to their expectations. Going with a 2-component water-based finish over top of it might be the way to go. We have Naturel, we've got very low sheen products, and when we came out with Bona Craft Oil, one of the things that was important to us was it was compatible with our water-based finish. So that's not a bad idea to have that conversation. And like I said, when we talk about buyer's remorse with this type of product, sometimes their first feeling is, wow, I really love that low sheen look. And then pretty soon they go to their friends' houses that have oiled floors or a little shiny or whatever. And all of a sudden they think to themselves, their floor looks lifeless and dull. Well, if there is a buyer's remorse, I know with Craft Oil, some other products out there, you can recoat these with you always use a 2-component water-based finish on top of these.
Well, especially with the Bona system and the Bona Craft Oil and Traffic HD, they're both a isocyanate hardener. So
correct.
They're just going to stick to each other like magnets.
Yep. So let's talk about maintenance a little bit. When we came out, I remember years and years ago when we were going to come out with this product in America, and we brought contractors from the East Coast, Miami, down in Florida, and we brought contractors from the West Coast, San Francisco and LA, and we brought contractors from New York, because when trends happen in America, usually the way it works, it starts on the East Coast, West Coast, New York, and it works its way to Middle America, right? So we brought a bunch of contractors in, and these were studs. These were phenomenal contractors that did a lot of this type of work. And we asked them, what do you like about this type of floors? What don't you like about it? Blah, 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 the whole process. And then the conversation came to maintenance. And this would really kind of surprise me, where I thought some of them would be saying, yeah, well, the maintenance is kind of a negative. To a man, they said, no, the maintenance is one of the best things. I mean, we love the maintenance. This is really easy money, because like I said, we made such a dramatic effect when we went to that lady's home that complained about it. It was 2 of us that spent 3/4 of a day, and really one of us could probably done the job, it was easy money. It was beautiful looking. And so it is, I put it down in the plus column for these type of floors.
Creates a maintenance opportunity.
Yeah.
And so, I'm in the same boat you were in, because during the classes, I'm always talking about, remember, if you're going to sell this or apply it, you got to talk about the maintenance. You got to have that number. And this one guy spoke right up. It was in New Jersey. He spoke right up and he's like, I love this stuff. He goes, I'm pushing it like crazy. Reason for it? He loved the maintenance opportunity.
Yeah.
He was doing great at it, making great money, easy work. He said he was selling it to the class, not me. So he sold me on, don't think of the maintenance opportunity as a negative. Think of it as a positive.
Yes. I have some bonus information later. But when you clean these floors you don't want to, these are floors you don't want to saturate with a lot of water, because you'll start robbing the floor of oils. If you have spills, you can clean them up quickly. There's cleaners you can use for these products. That's pretty much, if something goes wrong with these floors, it's usually one of those things. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's maintenance related. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. One of the last episodes, we had Ken Peterson on, a retailer contractor extraordinaire up in Canada, who did a great job talking. We had a really good discussion about retail, and also got a lot of good feedback on that from contractors and what have you. But we didn't get to everything I wanted to talk about, and in the interest of time. So there's a couple things I wanted to say. We talk about, a lot of times when you have homeowners, you offer a good, better, best. Just one thing that was interesting when I was talking to somebody else, where they said, let's say you have a low end product, and that low end product is at $1, just to throw round numbers out there. The homeowner sees this product, you want a lower end product, here it is, it's $1. And here's our high end product is at $5. So if they meet in the middle, the mid-range product is going to be around $3 a square foot. Okay. So but let's say instead of doing that, your low end product was $1, and your high end product was $13. The mid-range product would be now $7 a foot. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So just by a strategy of your pricing could make a hell of a difference at the end of the year it just changes the whole perspective and conversation, where now, $13 sounds, wow, that's a lot of money, but $7 sounds a whole lot better than that. That's we can afford that.
Well, also $1 sounds like, why would I ever put anything in my house that was for $1?
True, but I'm just using, round numbers just for example.
No, I get what you mean, but if it's that crazy, yeah. I'm looking at that's got to be a cheap product I wouldn't want if it's that much of a ratio.
Correct. Yeah. It's nothing like when someone guides you to the cheap products without even knowing what your expectations are. My friends went to they're young kids, but they're nurses. They got it going on. They're young and they got a lot of money, and they were in Florida in one of those Lulu's, or one of those shops that all the people are shopping at, and they're expensive, and the sales lady brought them right to the racks of where everything was on sale. I mean, and they were insulted by it. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty funny.
Didn't the car salesman do that to you?
I talk about that. I was going to use that as an example, but I think I've talked about it so much. But
you've done that one a lot. Yeah, he looked at you and said, "Oh, this guy's a bum."
Yeah. Here's the cheap trucks.
Here's some used stuff over here.
Yeah. So the second thing is changing your website, and a big one that really helped a lot of guys is changing the web to text messaging on their website. That's a nice option to really keep the clients there longer, and to engage with them a whole lot better than not having that process. And the last thing is, I've talked about this book before, but I heard another person talk about it. The book that changed their life is the E-Myth book. So there's E-Myth Revisited. I can't say enough about that book. It really was, it was, I was like 25 years in the business before I read that book. And I have to say, this is the one book that changed everything for me. And why? Why? Because when I read that book, every single page I was turning was making me sicker to my stomach. Because I was the guy in the book, and I told a story before why I met a retailer, not a retailer, a distributor, very, very successful distributor. And he told me, he goes, you know what? I was 20 years out in the business. I wanted to have 2 or 3 stores. I want to be more successful, but I was at the point when I realized, well, I'm never going to have more than 1 store. So this is what it is. And a guy came by and visited him and said, look, this guy's doing a seminar this Friday if you'd like to come by. And he goes, I blew the kid off because, he's a young kid. What's he going to teach me? He's right out of college. And the guy goes, no, you really, somehow he convinced the guy to go to the convention. Well, it was about this book. The guy bought the book. And now he doesn't know I read the book. He's telling me this story. I've never said anything about this book. And this guy said, so I bought the book, that E-Myth book. And he said, word for word, what I said. He goes, Wayne, at every turn of the page, I was getting sicker to my stomach because I was the same guy in that book. I said, I can't believe you're saying that right now. He goes, why? I said, because I had the exact same experience. So it talks about being able to scale and how to grow and what have you. So the last book is a book called Traction. I met a guy in a presentation who said, and this guy's bought multiple stores, retail stores, over $10 million a piece. And he said, by far and away, the best book he's ever read is for business is a book called Traction. So there you go. I just want to throw those out there because it might help somebody somewhere. And also the retail episode, I want people to take away as a negative that, what's the point? I mean, it's too hard to do and what have you, because obviously some people are wildly successful at it. So there you go. Did you want to yawn one more time before the episode is over or breathe?
No, I'm good. Nope.
You're good? Yeah.
Feeling good. Yeah.
Move some papers around, maybe?
No.
I
think that was you moving papers around.
It could have been both of us, but mine were actually for the
Yours
show.
were very, very important, and yeah, right. I get it. We all get it.
My papers were important. Yours were not.
Your papers are always more important than mine.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, Rob.
I even wrote down the books that I'll never read.
How'd you spell traction? No, you don't have to tell me.
Traction.
You got it. Okay. Sorry I did that to you. That was insulting.
I got the belt on that one.
Speaking of that, I saw a video the other day, and you could probably relate to this because you coached. This guy said when he coaches Little League, and when players would show up late for Little League, he would always belittle them. He goes, "Oh yeah, you're finally here. Well, nice to have you here. Blah blah blah." And he'd make him run laps or whatever. And then he started realizing that kid had it's his parents that brought him there late. It wasn't the kid's fault. So instead of belittling the kids for being late, he would say, "Look, at least when you get out of the car, run to practice. All right, we're happy to have you here, but do me a favor and run to practice from the car." And that was it. And he stopped being like passive aggressive like that. So there you go. I hope you learned something from that.
Yeah. Thanks. I did. Why would anybody yell at a 12-year-old for being late? Of course it's the parents.
Yeah. All right.
Meatheads.
Yes, there you go. What else do I know? I was going to throw in a recipe I learned the other day for crumb cakes, but I think I'll stop right there. All right, Rob, listen, this is the last time I'm going to see you before Thanksgiving. I know this is a great holiday for you guys to spend time with your family. For our contractors, I hope everybody gets a chance to spend time with your family and wind down a little bit and enjoy some time to yourselves. Thank you very much for listening. We greatly appreciate it, and hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend. There you go. This has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. Please stay tuned for another episode.